Thank you everyone for joining the Bruin Voice team today in our Wave 6 Learn at Lunch session. In our meeting here today, we are going to spend some time talking to you a little bit about Bruin Voice, giving you an overview. If you've never heard of Zoom Phone before, we're going to try to set a foundation for you so that come your day of go live, none of this is of surprise to you, and you have a bit of an understanding as to what to expect with this change. We're also going to share some information about experience and readiness. So we obviously want you to all to have a good positive experience in going through this change. In order for that to happen, we want to make sure that you are ready for it. So we'll be sharing information about how to prepare for this transition, things like how to access training, how to access support, how to connect with someone if you have questions or need any sort of guidance. So we'll do that, and then towards the end we should have plenty of time to take some questions. So if you do have questions along the way, feel free to save them for our Q&A at the end of this call, or also feel free to take advantage of our chat, which will be open to everyone. If you want to post questions there along the way, we will be addressing those as we go along. If there's anything at the end of the call that we can't give you a response for, we'll definitely take that back and connect with you at a later time. So let's go ahead and get into our overview, and we'll talk about what is Bruin Voice, starting with our benefits to UCLA. In terms of a certain service continuity, we are phasing out legacy analog systems, some of which are now approaching their end of life. UCLA as a whole has different platforms available that are currently out there now supporting voice services. So this is an opportunity to consolidate some of those onto a single platform, in this case being Zoom Phone. For some of these platforms that are ending their life, equipment parts are no longer available, which means that maintaining them is becoming increasingly more difficult. And in some cases, some of these are if you guys are familiar with things like Jabber, which is the Cisco solution, which is going away entirely. So that's also creating a case for UCLA to identify a new scalable solution that it will utilize over time. There are convenience factors that come along with Zoom Phone, such as the enhanced agility or flexibility that comes with this platform. This should be something that is of positive effect to folks that are working remotely or in hybrid situations, or even potentially doing teaching in those formats. Unlike traditional telephone service, Zoom Phone does move with you, and we'll talk more about what that means over the course of the next few slides. It is intended to enhance the community as well, by transitioning to Zoom Phone. You'll find, as we share more information with you and as you get more familiar with Zoom Phone, that you'll have new capabilities that you did not have available to you with your existing legacy voice services, such as being able to simultaneously transition from a voice to a video call as needed. If you need to share desktops, take advantage of chat features. There are other collaborative mechanisms as well that are available in this platform that are all intended for you to be able to take advantage of seamlessly as you need to. Of course, this comes with some opportunities as well for UCLA, as the school has already been for some time now taking advantage of Zoom, the meeting solution, such as we're doing here today. Zoom Phone is just an addition to that. So if you've already, if you are proficient, you're familiar with Zoom as the meeting platform, that's going to set you up to be successful with Zoom Phone, as it all will function from the same application once the phone feature has been deployed to you. You're going to hear quite a bit, if you haven't already, about soft phones. In the traditional world, we are all accustomed to having physical handsets that sit on a desk somewhere that you can grab and touch and press keys on there. As part of this transition, many of you are going to transition to soft phones. So You will no longer have a physical telephone that sits in an office or on a desk somewhere. And that's kind of in your, where you're limited to that one device if you ever want to use it for business purposes and calls. In future state, as I mentioned, many of you will transition to the Zoom soft phone, which is basically just another term for a digital telephone that you will be able to use on the go on your UCLA issued laptops or computers. You'll be able to take it with you on your personal smartphones or connected devices such as tablets. And it will resemble a traditional telephone in many ways. But there will also be additional features, such as being able to transition phone calls to and from meetings. So you may be taking a meeting and you need to mobilize, you need to transition it to a call or vice versa. Those are some things that you'll have available to you as features with Zoom Phone. You'll be able to take advantage of voicemail transcripts as well. So anytime that you receive a voicemail and you're not ready to listen to it, or perhaps not in a good place to do it, you may have the option, you'll be able to take advantage of transcripts as well, so that you can read voicemails if you are unable to listen to them. And as I mentioned, you'll also be able to turn chats or meetings into calls. So you'll find when you do get your hands on Zoom Phone, you also have the ability to take advantage of the chat feature that's available in that platform. And all of these, whether it's a meeting, a chat, or a phone call, you'll be able to quickly and conveniently flip from one to the other if you ever need to make that change in the middle of a conversation. This is a change, and we completely acknowledge that. For some folks that have been using legacy services, this is obviously going to be a change, and it'll be easier for some folks than others. But we have already executed 5 other waves before this one, and we've received a lot of great feedback from folks that have transitioned to soft phones for the first time. Where they really enjoy all the added features, the intuitive nature of the platform, and many folks really do appreciate the fact that they have the ability to take advantage of the mobility and the flexibility that Zoom Phone provides, and no longer having to rely on their own personal phone numbers to execute business jobs or responsibilities. So those are some of the things that you can look forward to with Zoom Phone, in addition to many other features that you will also have available to you. In terms of our transition and what is in scope for this move to Zoom Phone, I've already alluded to all of your direct lines moving to Zoom Phone. So all of your personal phone numbers issued by the university will move to Zoom Phone. We will also be transitioning shared lines. So many of your departments have department lines that are typically shared amongst multiple individuals. Those are, that is one example of a shared line, and those will also be moving to Zoom Phone. We will also be transitioning common area phones, and that's common area phone is just, common area is just a term that we use for any space out there that currently has a telephone or perhaps more than one telephone, but isn't necessarily assigned to any one specific individual, and anybody that's in that space could potentially grab the telephone and place a phone call or take a phone call. That would be an example of a common area, and those will also be cases that will transition to Zoom Phone. What is not going to move to Zoom Phone are emergency lines, as well as contact centers and any fax lines. So all of those will remain on the Zoom Phone platform. I'm sorry, excuse me, on their legacy platforms, will not move to Zoom Phone. All right. All right, I'm not sure why I can't get rid of that, but that's okay. There we go. Let's talk a little bit about your experience and readiness. But before I do that, are there any questions that I can take at this time on anything that I've already covered?
Quickly, can you hear me, Omar?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Flea for most people. You mentioned about our phone numbers being the same as a soft phone. Does a soft phone come with some type of headphone gear, or have we not covered that yet?
It does not. That's a good question. This project in particular will not be providing headphones or headsets. You'll have some options available to you. This is information we've also provided to your departments. So each department, as necessary, will be able to provide you with a headset. So if you do have the need for one, you'll want to make sure you speak to, your manager, and your department should be able to provide one. You'll also have the option to use, your personal devices. So, if you have something like a pair of AirPods or, some sort of headset that, you use for your own, personal phone calls, that's also going to be compatible. So, if you prefer that route, that's an option that you have available as well. If you rather not use one of your personal devices, speak to your manager, and your department should be able to provide you with a headset.
Thank you for that information.
Sure. Okay, let's talk a little bit about experience and readiness. First, let's talk about communications. As we're getting now a little bit closer to your date of transition, or what we call the go live, you are going to start receiving weekly communications from our teams. These communications are intended to prepare you, to create awareness, and make you feel like you're ready for day one getting started with Zoom Phone. We'll share information about the schedule. But some of the things we're going to really highlight are things like training. There will be some options available for you on how to access training, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the coming slides. We also want to make sure that you're aware of how to get in touch with any support that you might need. So we do have a week-long dedicated hypercare period. We call it hypercare. On the day of go live, the day that you transition to Zoom Phone, for that entire week, we will be providing elevated support. So if you happen to run into any issues, you have any questions, just need any general guidance on how to get started with Zoom Phone, and you haven't been able to attend to one of our trainings or look at some of our communications, we will have support available for you that week. And so I will also be sharing some information with you about how to take advantage of that. In terms of your timeline and what the schedule looks like, I'm going to really, fast forward over to the month of September, where I'm hovering my mouse and it says we are here. We are, obviously having our Learn at Lunch session. So if you're looking at the bottom end user swim lane, we're having our Learn at Lunch session now. By now you've probably already received a welcome email from us that kind of introduce you to this project and share some information about what to expect. But moving forward now, you're going to be getting weekly communications from us. You'll be getting you all should already have on your calendars invitations for training sessions. I'll talk more about those in just a moment. You'll have opportunities to take advantage of Q&A sessions where you can connect with our staff if you happen to have any questions along the way. And then on September 18th, that is when this Zoom Phone will become active for you. That is a Monday. So that weekend before the 18th, our team is going to be busy behind the scenes, kind of preparing the environment, getting all the setup functions taken care of, so that when you come into work and you get started that Monday, the 18th, and you start Zoom Phone, or I should say the Zoom application, as you probably normally already do, you'll see that Zoom Phone's already been added to that application. And hopefully by that time, you've taken advantage of some of our training, you've read through some of our resources, and you'll know what to do on kind of how to get started using the telephone service. But as I mentioned that week, we're also going to have, in addition to hypercare, we are going to have office hours as well. And those will be sessions that will be scheduled on your calendars as well, just like training has and Q&A sessions have, where it's, just more opportunities for you to connect with us. So if you need more support, you want to talk to someone from our team, you have questions, there will be plenty of opportunities for you to do that from now until your go live and that week of go live. Once we get past that first week, you kind of had some time to get accustomed to it. We'll be administering a thank you survey to you. And that's just for us to collect some feedback, kind of see how we did. Hopefully you had a positive experience, and that's kind of how we learn as well about our approach and how to improve going forward. So that's something for you to to look forward to once we get past that first week of go live. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea as to kind of what to expect in the next couple of weeks. As far as the communication, so just kind of pulling back another layer to what I've already previously covered. Your welcome email, you should have already received that. User readiness communications, again, those are going to cover Q&A sessions, office hours. They'll share information about how to connect with us over Slack, over email. We'll provide you with a phone number that you can also dial if you want to take advantage of support that way, in addition to all of our reference materials. You'll also receive a go live message. It's going to cover a lot of the common questions you might have floating around in your head that first day, which is like, what does go live mean? How do I prepare? Who can I ask questions to? How do I reach out to support, or if I need help? And as I mentioned, and towards the end of that, or after that first week that you've had time to kind of play around and live with Zoom Phone for a few days, we'll want to learn about your experience and what that was like through our customer experience survey. Training. All right, this is going to be really important here. We want to make sure we have as many folks as possible taking advantage of training. It's going to be really important. So there's going to be a couple options. Option number one is going to be our synchronous option. So on your calendars, you should already have invitations for live instructor-led training sessions that will be facilitated by Zoom. That is like the number one option that I like to promote the most, just because they're really well put together. They're interactive. It's a great place for you all to ask questions, in addition to being in front of an instructor that's actually showing you how to do things in a live environment. If you can, and if you're able to, and your schedules allow, I would highly encourage you to please attend one of those training sessions. That's going to really set you up for success. If you cannot attend one of those training sessions, you can attend a session like we're having here, our Learn at Lunch sessions, which are informative, but they're really complementary to the training materials, which are going to be far more specific than what the information I can share with you in a session like this. So, thank you for being here in this session and listening to me talk, but I will still encourage you, definitely, if you can, take advantage of the training sessions, because that's going to be really where you're going to be a little bit more hands-on and getting the opportunity to actually see some of the features work, so that it's not all brand new to you on day one. And as I mentioned, you'll have Q&A sessions that you can attend as well, where you can get in touch with our team to ask questions if you have any. If you aren't able to take advantage of that option one, or if generally speaking, you just like to kind of learn independently at your own pace, and classroom setting isn't really the way that you learn the best, that's okay too, because we have an asynchronous option that's available to you. We do have a course set up that's getting started with Zoom Phone. You'll receive links to that as well. It's about 45 minutes long. And it essentially covers all of the same content that's covered in the live instructor-led session, but obviously without the instructor part. So you'll still have the opportunity to cover all the same topics and the information, but you won't have the benefit of like having someone there that you can talk to and ask questions and clarify things. So that works well for some folks, not so well for others. Again, it depends on your style and what you choose to do, but I personally encourage you to take advantage of the training session if you can. Lastly, we do have reference materials available. So those are really intended to complement the first two options, but we do have an extensive library of knowledge-based articles. And Zoom also maintains a far more extensive library of support articles as well, that are going to be available to you. You'll have links to all of that as well. So anything that isn't covered in the first two options, you'll certainly be able to find in some of our reference materials for some more advanced topics. All right. Diving into hypercare, as I mentioned, starting on the day of go live, and for the remainder of that week, our team will be providing dedicated support to you if you need that. And there will be a couple different ways in which you can get in touch with our team to access support. The first will be over email. You can always email help@it.ucla.edu. That is going to generate a service request for our team, and a member of our staff is going to get in touch with you to answer your questions or give you assistance with any issue you might be having. You'll also, if you have something a little bit more urgent, you need to talk to someone right away. We do have a dedicated Slack channel for hypercare. It is Bruin Voice Help. Any of you can go into Slack, search for that channel. You should be able to find it. It is a public channel that you can join. And that's a good way, again, if you have quick questions and need quick answers, we do have staff there that's available that week. We're happy to connect with you over Slack as well if you need support. Our office hours, which are pre-scheduled and on your calendars as well for that week, are available to you. And, obviously our staff will be on those office, and in those calls there prepared to also connect with you if you want to ask any questions or need any assistance. The help desk is also available. So, for less urgent matters or just, general questions, feel free to also call the help desk. And this is, obviously the usual help desk that you're accustomed to calling when you need technical support, is available to also answer and provide some frontline support for Zoom phone that week of go live. After that week of hypercare closes, help@it.ucla.edu is still going to be available. Feel free to continue emailing our team there if you have any questions or need any support. If you have any net new requests, like my department just hired someone new, how do I give them Zoom phone? You'll want to make sure you use Web Center for those types of requests. Or somebody just left our department, what do we do with our phone line? The usual Web Center that you use today to submit requests to the voice services team is the same place that you'll submit any net new requests through. And again, links to all of this is going to be provided to you in your communications so that you have those handy and ready to use as you need. The survey that I briefly talked about a few moments ago is really going to allow us to learn about what your experience was like. We do really depend on feedback for us to continue refining our approach. So your responses would be really greatly appreciated. Of course, it does have a positive impact. Your feedback is important. As I mentioned, we've done 5 waves before this one now. We've learned so much from the feedback we've gotten from our customers that's allowed us to make some really significant improvements. So we definitely do look at it and we look forward to it. So just want to encourage you to please give us some feedback when you do get the survey. It is super important to us so that we can continue providing a high level of service to all customers. And with that, that is all of the content that I had prepared for you today. I'd like to now transition to taking some questions if anybody has them, or if there's anything in the chat that my team hasn't already addressed. The floor is open, so feel free to unmute yourselves and ask any questions you might have.
Hi, I have never heard of Slack. What is Slack? Can you hear?
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Slack is it is a communication application, essentially a chat application that UCLA uses today to communicate with other members of the university. It is available to all UCLA employees. If you've never Bruin Voice isn't deploying Slack, but it is available to you, and it should be available to you through your service catalog. If you wanted to acquire Slack, it's an application that UCLA offers to its employees.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything in the chat perhaps that hasn't been answered? I know Serena's been addressing some of those.
I answered all of the questions, but late breaking, Gwen just sent one in. She asked, how will we know when someone is calling us? Will there be any kind of caller ID function? And so actually, Omar, do you want to give it a go, or do you want me to?
Sure. Happy to. Yes, there is a caller ID function. If you're on your computer actively, with the application up, you will see a little bit of a notification that pops up, and it does show you the caller that is calling you. From there are, other functions like, you can configure the application to ring. If you are taking advantage of using Zoom Phone across multiple devices, it may also ring on your computer or on your mobile device. You can make notifications quiet or silent. And so there are some options there, but if you're in the middle of a meeting, you can choose to see a notification. You can choose to have the call interrupt you so you can pick it up. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's highly configurable, and you'll have options as to how you want that to work for you. But generally speaking, yes, you will be notified. Yes, you will hear something if you choose to have a ring. And yes, you will be able to see who is calling you.
And Gwen, just as a shameless plug, we will have that Zoom-led training next week, and Omar spoke to it earlier, but that training is more so focused on the Zoom feature. So it's going to range from the question that you just asked on what is it going to look like when a call comes in, to how do I set up my voicemail, or what important information do I need to complete within my account, or how do I forward calls. I mean, just a lot of the very day-to-day functions of Zoom is going to be covered in that class. So I highly recommend that you attend that. And then also in the chat, if you're unable to attend next week's Zoom-led trainings, I'm sending everybody a link to our website where our training is recorded. And on that page, you don't have to watch the entire hour of training. You can see the subtopics, and then use that hot link to go specifically to that section to answer a specific question about a Zoom feature. So I am sending that through momentarily. And
Thank you,
Felicia,
Serena.
oh,
And I just I went back to this slide here because actually this has some pretty good screenshots of what that actually looks like when someone calls you. So like you can see this in this screenshot here on your mobile device, you'll see like a little pop-up that tells you, Joe Bruin is calling you. We'll give you some options. On your computer screen, you'll also see something similar where, it'll notify you, let you know who's calling. It'll give you some options to, take the call, send it to voicemail or whatnot. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a visual there as to what that's going to look like.
and we have another question from Felicia. Will Office Setup automatically set to our home workstations? Omar, do you want to take that?
Sure. I will admit I'm not 100% sure what Office Setup means, but I can tell you this: within Zoom Phone, you'll have the option to set up and configure how you want your stations to function, including things like office hours, and you can set that up on different devices as well. So you may choose to have a ring in the office, but have it quiet and at home. You may want to set up office hours where you're open to taking phone calls within business hours, but like on the weekends, for example, you'd rather not have your Zoom phone ringing if someone calls you. It isn't done by default automatically for you. In training, here's another shameless plug for training. In your training session, your instructor will actually show you how to configure your office setup so that the application functions, how you want it, whether it's in the office or at home or on the go. So another good reason there for you to attend training is so that they can go ahead and show you how to do that for your own experience.
And just to add on to that, Felicia, so because Zoom is a cloud-based platform, basically anywhere you are logged into Zoom or Zoom Phone, you will have access to your calls. So whether it's incoming or you would like to make a call from your work designated phone number, that's like one of the beauties of using Zoom Phone and having a soft phone benefit, as it's listed here on the first column. But whether you are working from home or you're in the office, you'll receive and make calls from that same line.
Thank you for the information. May I ask a question live here?
Of course.
I've noticed that we're talking about a training next week, but I'm perusing my emails and I don't see a link for training for next week. I did receive your link here in the chat regarding the videos, but I was looking for the live training email. Has that been forwarded out yet for next week?
Yes. So sent out 2 emails so far with respective training links, but let me also send you to this link here. The end of the URL is live training. And if you click on that link, then it actually takes you to all the live training that's available. So what you'll want to sign up for is a Zoom-led training. And that's the training that we're referencing for next week.
Any other questions we can take?
So
Okay.
I saw that the go live isn't for a couple weeks, but training is next week. By the time that the training is happening next week, will we have all the functions so that we can kind of follow along as we go through that training, or is it still not going to have full functionality until the week after?
That's a good question. You may start to see Zoom Phone available to you, and you may be able to see some of the functionality before that designated day, but the full functionality will not be available until that day of go live. So you may be able to follow along with some parts of what's going to be covered in the training and see it on your end, but it will not be fully configurable. And all the functionality won't be fully functional until that actual day of go live. So a good portion of training will be kind of following along. And some of the things that will be covered there will not be available to you until that first day of go lives. So that's a good question.
And Gregory, I think you're the one to ask that question. What we encourage folks to do is attend next week's training as a heads up, so you have a sense of what the user interface looks like, but go back to our on-demand training link that I also put in the chat, because realistically, you won't remember everything that's covered next week, but as you actually work through some of the functions and set up your account, set up your voicemail, et cetera, you'll want to use those specific hot links, and then it will take you step by step on what you need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What other questions can we answer?
I think this group is ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, if there's nothing else, I am happy to give you all a bit of time back on your calendar today. Do you want to take the opportunity to thank you for being with us today and listening to our spiel? We hope that you find this useful. We're really excited to support you through this transition. So definitely connect with our team if anyone has any questions or needs any assistance going forward. And we look forward to seeing many of you in training next week to hopefully get you ready for Zoom phone. With that, thanks, folks. Hope you all have a great afternoon, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.